Hey everyone, on this May evening, welcome to More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
I'm Jordan Smith, and to start off, if our video looks or sounds different, it's only because as of yesterday, I think, Skype, which we have been using for these episodes up till now, has officially shut down. We tried using their alternative, Microsoft Teams, but we couldn't find any option to record, so we kind of danced around the internet to see if we could find something, and we're now using Google Meet. So hopefully that will make a difference.
Yeah, I think I had to kind of get some help and kind of futz around a little bit, but I think we got the hang of it right now. But let's let's all put all that behind and just go on to today's topic, which is this coming Saturday is our Artists Unlimited reunion. Traditionally, this is the event in which we are kind of brought back together. They're kind of a party, and they announce what the next show is going to be.
Yeah, it's something we and the rest of the cast look forward to every year. In fact, pretty much after the previous show ends, like right after that show ends, we immediately start trying to piece together what we think is the most likely show they'll do the following year. And now that we're going to find out at the end of this week, we're going to try and at least kind of decide what our final prediction is.
Yeah. I had a small handful of rather wild guesses, and you probably had a few of your own, I'm sure, Jordan.
Yeah, I've got four main ones and two that I think could work but are probably not very likely. But I'll get to those towards the end, and then once I'm done with my entire list, I'll kind of declare what my official final guess is. But the first one I wrote down has been a common one for multiple reasons, and that is Wizard of Oz. The main reason I thought of this initially is because we've been kind of going on I don't know what to call it, maybe like a repeat streak as of recent. And the reason for that is because back in 2015, we did Mary Poppins. 8 years later, we did it again. 2016, we did Beauty and the Beast. 8 years after that, we did that show again. And then 2017, it was Wizard of Oz. So everyone's wondering if 8 years later, we're going to put that show on again.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yep. But another thing I thought of later on that I really think ups the chances of this show being done is that the story is kind of at an all-time high right now, thanks to us being in the middle of the Wicked movies releases. We've already had part one, and part two is set to come out, I think, later this year. So, due to the popularity of the story, it would probably make a lot of sense to do it.
So did you see the first movie at all yet?
You know, I still haven't. I gotta find a way to do that, because I don't think it's in theaters at this point. It might be on some streaming services somewhere that I'll have to look into, but if I have an opportunity, if I have an opportunity, I will definitely see it. And this is coming from a guy who has not even seen the stage version yet, so I don't know all the elements. I don't know how true to the musical that the movie is, but I've heard almost nothing but positive reception for it. So when I do have a chance to see it, I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've never really watched the stage version, but I knew quite a bit of it from like hearing songs like here and there, like on my school theater stage briefly, and my sister is one of probably the biggest fan of the show that I know, and we saw the movie and I liked it. So,
all right. One other thing I didn't consider until just now, because we were talking about Wicked, is that pretty much any time Artists Unlimited has put on a production that involves some type of flying, we are visited by fly coordinator, flying stage expert, what have you, by the name of Paul Rubin. And he is a big name in the theatrical world when it comes to flying, especially because he actually did some of the fly coordination and whatnot for Wicked on Broadway.
Yeah, and Peter Pan as well.
Yep, exactly, along with some other shows that we've done that in some way involve flight. Like when we did Willy Wonka. In any case, because of the height of Wicked right now, and The Wizard of Oz story in general, because it's 8 years since we've done it before, and because Paul Rubin could potentially be involved again, I think it would be kind of interesting if we did do Wizard of Oz this year.
Yeah, I'd like to do it.
I definitely would too, especially since people like Youssef, who have not been with the cast as long, have not been able to try that one yet. But then the next one is also a popular choice, that being Seussical. And part of the reason why this one is talked about a lot is we may have done Mary Poppins recently, which happened to take place 8 years after the last time we did it, but the original plan was to do Seussical. The only reason why we changed it is because a local theater or local school with a theater that was not too far from where we were happened to already be putting Seussical on. So we figured to avoid repetition and any, I don't know if contention is the right word, but we ultimately decided that it'd be best if we did not do the same show, which is why we ended up doing Mary Poppins. So maybe because maybe the directors still want to do it, it could still be very likely that we'd put on Seussical at some point.
Yeah, I did I get to see some of the kids who did the Seussical school show, who beat us to it, in a more recent Arcadia production of Into the Woods, and I got to meet some of them after the show, and they are very talented and likable kids, and I would be honored to have any of them, especially if it's a production of Seussical. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I would definitely have to agree. We have so many wonderful people that we know and work alongside. A lot of talented actors, a lot of talented singers, dancers, and Seussical has the kind of zaniness that would fit well with a cast like this. And it'd be a nice little trip down memory lane, because the last time we put on Seussical, I was about, I want to say 18, maybe 19 years old. And now that it's been about almost a decade, it's like I'm approaching 30. It's like, how can I approach this differently depending on what character I play, now that I have a lot more experience as well? But then I also thought of the show we did before Seussical the last time we did it, and we kind of touched upon this a little bit, Peter Pan. I don't know if this one is very likely per se, because I haven't seen too many people actively talking about it, whether it be other cast or directors, but it could be a surprise announcement for all I know. But it's like, it's been so long since we've done that one, and other shows that we've done more recently than that we've now done twice at least. So I think if for no other reason, it'd be a nice one to bring back. And we've had some people who have left since then. We've had a lot of new people come in. So I think it could be a fun, fresh take on it.
Well, yeah, with new people involved, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and bringing back Paul Rubin again, he would be a great help for the flying sequences, and I can definitely say from personal experience that he's also a good mentor. So if we did put on Peter Pan, I think it'd be great to see him again. And then the fourth of the main four that I thought of is Music Man. I still don't know too much about the story itself. I did have some people explaining the main plot line of the story to me, but I still need to find a copy of a script somewhere that I can read through and maybe listen to the soundtrack for it to get more familiar with it. But a lot of people seem to love it. It seems like it's a lot of fun. And I know the directors have talked a lot about doing this one. I don't know necessarily why it hasn't been done yet, but whether it be the main director, the choreographer, the music director, it seems like it's a popular topic of conversation among them. And I know there's a few people in the cast that would love to put on this production, because we've had several conversations about it in casual meetups or when we're out doing other events, like when we did the forum for autism not too long ago. I know a lot of people want to do this one, so I feel like Music Man could be a solid option.
Yeah. Music Man is one of my earliest memories of attending a show. I saw it like when I was really, really young, live on stage. So yeah. For that reason, among others, that be pretty interesting.
Yeah, like I was saying with Peter Pan, this could be a good trip down memory lane for you. And it would be a fantastic introduction for me, considering I, at this point, would still be going in blind, as it were. But then I wrote two down that I would love to do. I would love to see this cast do. But as of right now, I don't know if they ever... I don't know if they ever would, but I have serious doubts. And the first is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I picked this one because it's a grand story. It's got fantastic music in there. And I feel like many people in the cast love the story, love the characters, and would really enjoy putting on a production like this. I know this because out of all the shows that we think Artists Unlimited may never do, this has been one of the most popular ones. When it comes, though, to reasons why I think it may not ever be done, at least with Artists Unlimited, is because despite it being a Disney film, or at least a musical based on the Disney film, it is one of the darker ones in terms of story elements. And that's saying something, considering the book that it's based on is significantly darker. So the fact that Disney got away with it as well as they did is astounding. But even then, a lot of people in our group, they have various types of disabilities, like well, not exactly like the main character does, but he has a disability that's at the forefront of the story a lot of the time. And he's constantly made fun of for it, or people are judging him because of it, or just negative things happen to him partly because of it, if nothing else. Or in the most basic general statements, people are making noticeable comments about it. And that element right there, I think, would be very problematic because, like I just said, we have a lot of people with disabilities that in real life they've been made fun of for, or people just make fun of them in general, or just laugh at them, or what have you. So this could trigger something that they may not want to relive. So that is a big problem right there. But the reason why I even thought of it to begin with is because when we did Shrek, we almost didn't do the song Freak Flag for similar reasons. We didn't want people in the cast to think they were freaks, because they're not. They're just different and special in their own ways. And Hunchback, while approaching it in a darker sense, has a similar message. In fact, the song at the beginning that also closes out the production, they have a lyric that goes from who is the monster and who is the man to what makes a monster, what makes a man. And it's like Quasimodo, despite being what society would be considered a monster, is more of a man than the man who takes care of him that turns out to be the actual monster. So I think if we did end up doing Hunchback of Notre Dame, I feel like we could really do well with portraying that message, in the sense that we may look different than other people, or we may act different than other people, but that doesn't mean we're less of a person than people who don't look like us.
No.
So if we do end up doing Hunchback at some point, even though I don't think we will, I think that could be a really important message to portray.
Yeah, I agree.
Of course, the other problem, too, is with the main villain. You would think he's not as bad as some of the other Disney villains, because he's just a human who has human flaws. And some of the other Disney villains out there, including some of the ones that we've had in our productions, have technically done worse things. But the way it's portrayed in this story is not necessarily kid or family friendly. He claims to be a very religious man, but some of the stuff he does, like the fact that he craves a younger woman, is very problematic, shall I say. And we usually try to go for more family-friendly shows. So with this particular character combined with these different story elements that we've talked about now, I feel like it could be difficult, not impossible, but difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then the last one I wrote down has probably been the most popular choice for a show that the cast has wanted to do, one that has been very highly, very often requested by the cast, and even the directors have expressed interest in wanting to do it at some point, is Aladdin. It's right along with a lot of our other Disney productions. I think it isn't dark like Hunchback is, and is a really fun one to do, especially when it comes to characters like the genie. So it's like, despite the fact that everyone wants to do it, there are just some elements going on right now that have prevented us from doing it. For a while, it's the fact that it was on Broadway, and usually when a show is on Broadway, you can't put the production on yourself, because you need to get the rights to it, and those usually aren't released until after the show has had its main run on Broadway. So acquiring the rights, that's its own battle right there that can stop any hope of putting on a production like that in its tracks. In recent years, though, there was I'm trying to remember how it was worded, but Aladdin, as the directors put it, it was on a certain list. I forget what the word was that was classifying who and who could not put on a production of Aladdin. But technically speaking, we might have been able to get away with it based on the kind of organization we are. Because we're not, we may put on the production in a school, but we're not necessarily doing it through the school. But if I could remember what the categorization was technically called, I'd be able to better elaborate on that. But the other issue I know that they've had is with money. We are a non-for-profit organization, so everything that we get comes from like ticket sales, donations, and sponsorships and the like. And the flying for shows like Aladdin, especially when it comes to the magic carpet, or possibly having a genie hover around if that is needed, that can be pretty expensive. So we wouldn't want to put in less effort than is needed for a production like that. So we would want to make sure we have the funds to pull it off, so we don't do an oversimplified thing, because that's not what we're about. We want to put on the best possible production that we can, and if we can't do much flying, despite the fact that it's right in the forefront of some things, like in A Whole New World, then yeah, it becomes a challenge after that. So Aladdin is definitely a lot more likely than Hunchback is, and it's certainly been a lot more requested. It's just a matter of when or how can we get the rights for it, when can we get the funds to pull it off, and just making sure we have a location to do it.
Yeah, may need to wait a while.
Yeah, and if and or when that day comes where they announce that we are doing Aladdin, the wait will certainly be worth it.
Yeah. I had a few of my own, and some of them same. Wizard of Oz being one of them. For one reason is because like the shows that my brother did in middle school were kind of the first shows that kind of planted the theater bug seed for me, sort of. And when he did it, he was the Wizard / Professor Marvel, and it seems like a pretty fun role that I would like to do if I got the chance.
Now, do you think you'd be cast as both characters, or just the Wizard or Marvel?
I think, because when he did it, it was both. It was kind of a double role, so I think it would be both.
I think that would be good, partly because you don't really see the person playing Oz until near the very end. Like, granted, you still hear him at least a couple times before his true identity is discovered. But it's like, if somebody is going to play the Wizard, I feel like they should have another role, especially earlier on. So I think that could work.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I wrote down the show that I feel like kind of started it all for me when my school did it, High School Musical, the live musical version. Yeah, it came at an interesting time. It was like right on the heels of the Disney Channel film itself, which was pretty much an overnight television smash hit. And you probably know like a million fans of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. And I just, I was impressed with like how good the kids did it, and how it even expanded on the plot in a way that was even deeper. And there are maybe a handful of roles that I probably would like to maybe have a crack at.
Yeah, High School Musical would definitely be a fun one. Artists Unlimited has done it once before, but it's been so long since they did it that the last time they did, I wasn't even part of the cast yet.
Yeah.
I think it was 2 or 3 years before I got there, and this was back in 2012. So, yeah, I definitely think it's due for a return at some point. Part of me was unsure about High School Musical at first, because a lot of us are well out of high school at this point. But then I thought, even the actors in the film were past high school, many of them. In fact, I think most, if not all, of the main cast were in their 20s and possibly even early 30s when they put on that film. So I don't think it'd be completely impossible to pull off. And even then, some of us could play like some of the high schoolers' parents or like the coach or the dance instructor. So that could definitely be done. And I think, now that I think about it, High School Musical could be a special production for me because many years ago, when my sister was in high school, she was actually in a production of it as a character called Jane, if I recall correctly. So it's like, if I ended up doing High School Musical, especially with Artists Unlimited, then it could be one of the few productions that both my sister and I would have done.
Yeah, well, so far I've done at least 2, maybe more, that my sister has done. So, yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't think I've done any that my brother has done yet, but we'll see.
You'll get there, I'm sure. Even if it's not with Artists Unlimited, if you eventually expand on this acting career, then there could possibly be a higher probability that you will have done a show that your brother has.
Yeah. Another one, I think mainly because it's probably never been done by Artists Unlimited before, or very few theaters that I know of. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which is the Peanuts musical. I feel like it's kid friendly enough, and the franchise is popular, beloved enough, and it would be probably something interestingly different.
Yeah, Charlie Brown is one of those timeless classics where, as old as it is, it has not grown stale. In fact, I know so many people every year that look forward to the holiday specials, whether it be on TV or on a DVD or something like that, where they're just able to sit down and watch them as a tradition, especially like the Halloween one and the Christmas one. And since we put on a production usually towards the end of October or beginning of November, it'd be right around that time where those specials are rising in popularity again. So that would definitely make a lot of sense. And yeah, Charlie Brown is family friendly, so that could work. I think I saw it once, many years ago when I was a kid. Maybe twice, but I'd have to kind of go through the files in my brain, as it were, to remember that correctly. The one thing I'm not sure about, because I haven't seen it in so long, is how big the cast can potentially be.
Right, yeah.
Because one of the main challenges we have with each of our productions is making sure there's a role for everybody. And if there aren't really a lot of songs or scenes that involve a lot of people, it could be difficult to pull off. Not impossible, but we definitely would have an extra hurdle or two to navigate to make sure everybody had something to do.
Yeah, we're a cast of at least 70, so there's got to be enough activity to go around.
Exactly, and as long as there's enough people, I think this production could work perfectly for a cast like this.
Yeah. I also put Sound of Music and The Music Man, and as well as Singing in the Rain. I don't know. I'm not sure if I had really particular reasons for these. Just thinking. I mean, I did talk with our lighting guy because I work with him sort of in my day job, and he's saying. He gave me the cryptic clue of, well, it's something I haven't really been involved in or something like that. So, yeah. So I didn't feel like I had much to go off of, but I figured maybe those ones were remotely possible.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely elaborated a bit on Music Man.
Yeah.
In terms of Singing in the Rain, I don't know if it's been as talked about, but I know some people, including the directors, have brought it up at some point. So it could definitely be a possibility. I just don't know how much of one compared to some of the other ones they've talked about recently. And then in terms of Sound of Music, that could definitely work. The one thing that not necessarily has me concerned exactly, but like the whole thing with having Nazis or the Germans of that time in general being portrayed in a production like this might be a little too serious for some. Granted, I don't think they're in it for very long when compared to the rest of the story, but they're definitely near the forefront, as it were, towards the end as it gets closer, and especially when the family is trying to escape. But I do think it's possible we would just need to be a little bit more careful with it. Now, when it comes to my final official choice, I feel like a lot of the ones you said and some of the ones I said are possible, dare I say even likely. But for my final official guess, before we find out what the show is this weekend, I'm going to go with either Wizard of Oz or Music Man.
Yeah. I don't really have much of an informed guess, so I'll just go with what you go with, I guess.
Fair enough, but either way, about this time, trying to look at the actual calendar here. At this time, 4 days from now, we will know. And whatever it is, I'm sure it's going to be great.
Yeah, I won't be there because my sister's graduating university, but I'm sure within the next couple of days or so, I'll get the update.
Oh, yeah, we'll keep you in the loop. And even if I don't do it, I'll make sure somebody reaches out to you.
Yeah, I'm sure artists themselves will do it by email or something.
Yeah, by email or Facebook. Like, you might see it on there, depending. But yeah, you're bound to find out pretty quickly.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, and we encourage you, anyone watching, listening, to give your predictions, any questions, comments at my Instagram, Seth_Mariano_AU, our YouTube. Follow us on our Spotify, and yeah, any questions, comments, very much appreciated.
Yep, and if you are a fan of our theater group, Artists Unlimited, or if you know about us or are even involved, let us know what you think the show will be, or what you think Artists Unlimited should do. But any suggestions you have in general, whether it be about this topic or not, are more than welcome. I will also say, before we close off, I talked about this with Seth before we started. We'll be taking the next couple of weeks before we do another episode. The reason for that is because next week is not only Mother's Day, but my mom's birthday a few days after that. And as we mentioned in an earlier episode back in October, my mom unfortunately passed away due to being in an accident that she didn't survive. So with this being both the first Mother's Day and the first birthday of hers without her, it's going to hit hard, and I feel like it's better for me to focus on grieving and making sure I pull through. And then the following week, I will be out of town, specifically for a wedding. But when we come back, I'm sure we'll not only tell everyone watching what the show we're going to do is, but we'll probably also get into who we think in our cast is going to play what characters based on the story.
Yep. So we will see you in a few weeks. Until then, everybody take care.
So long, everyone.